imaginations, you are tapping in to the root of the symmetry and tuning in to the mind of Mercury, so we can dive even deeper to the internet, into the World Wide Web, and see how the overall English speaking consciousness, let me take these out. The English speaking consciousness, I was mixing things. You know how it be as an artist. And by the way, all right, throughout this whole series, anytime we see the word God, just translate it to artist or creator, okay? Because God doesn't mean like just it means artist. Like, I consider myself an artist. As Chase Clarence Calloway, as Tehuti Hermetic Trismegistus, I am a cosmic artist. So I'm an individual artist. So my body is my art. Everything I create is my art. My caduceus, individually created by my spirit as art to represent itself. So the whole point of the word God is to represent an artist. Okay, that's it. Or a creator. Okay, that's all. And really, right, people think artist falls under creator. So whatever, to me, they're the same thing. All right, so I'm letting you know my relationship with the English language as Chase Calloway, so that you can understand how these words hit me and how I'm using them. Because we can go even deeper. God is fire. All right, so anytime you know that you're God, that's just you knowing that you're creating life from your imagination. And it's that simple. You feel me? So anytime we go throughout this whole series, right, they're going to talk about all my past lives being gods. That's all of me as an artist. Like, symmetry is also a god. Symmetry goes harder than all my past lives, by the way. So, I mean, and it only makes sense that he would. That's the point of us growing over time. The whole point of us growing over time is that we become stronger and better and bigger and expand overall. This is why the universe is always expanding, because we are always expanding it with our imagination. So that's all of us. All of us as individual spirits are individual gods using our individual imaginations to expand the universe based on how we vibrate at a certain frequency to create the energy that allows us to do so. So when science tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, that is a lie. I've been only forced to learn lies my whole life because these light supremacists invaded my ancestors' home and want to make me learn their things so that they can further enslave me and steal what actually matters, which is spirituality. They steal spirituality. It's insane. They stole the Emerald Tablets. They stole everything from Egypt. They stole everything from Mesoamerica. They steal everything from all the indigenous cultures that they possibly can, while hating on those indigenous cultures and saying that they mean nothing, and like calling us the N-word, literally, right? Calling us the N-word. Like, it's so annoying. Like, this world is so twisted and wrong. So twisted and wrong. So that's why I'm here. Okay, my spirit as Mercurius Ter Maximus, Hermes Trismegistus, the symmetry of the universe. All right, I am the balance of the universe, the symmetry of the universe. I grow trees to connect simulations. So then that's me being Metatron too. And it's just all being the messenger of God, but then building. So it's me in all these different forms as a space that built Mercury. So the whole point of my space building Mercury is to communicate with the entire universe, you, because you're creating the universe. So not just the universe, but the spirit's creating the universe. That's why I care about you knowing that you're an individual. If you don't know that you're an individual, then you're not going to know that you are expanding the universe with all of us based on how you vibrate with your imagination. And then everyone has a different frequency of vibration, right? So if you're vibrating higher, then that's where you play out more like fire. And then that's where you actually can travel further and expand more and be seen more. You play out more like fire. Whereas if you vibrate lower, you're playing out more like water in that case. If we're just keeping it simple to fire and water. And you're playing out in a low vibration that stays still and stays contained. All right, so what we can see here is the wisdom. Here's some Hermetic alchemy real quick. The wisdom right here is knowing that your soul is contained and your ego spreads. So you as a spirit, when you experience yourself, you're experiencing yourself as the ego. And that's what allows you to project your light out, and then you become a mind. Because now that awareness that you're using to be aware of something, which is you as the observer creating something to be aware of, so that first light that allows you to interact with other lights, you then build a mind around that. That's you communicating your light and having an atmosphere. Okay, so that's us going from 1 to 2 to 3, because you have to connect with it. So that connection that makes your mind is the soul. Your soul is always stationary because your spirit can never, your space can never touch a space outside of itself. So the bigger your space becomes, it's still alone, which then that's what your soul represents. Your soul is like your ultimate fixed water Scorpio energy. You feel me? So that's that 8, that cosmic 8, where it's just boom, you're right there feeling yourself forever. That's your internal water cycle. No one's water can touch your water. No one else can feel how you feel. No one else's feelings can touch yours. All right. This is why we make Earth. Right? Literally, if you want to feel how I feel, the only way we could possibly start to make that happen is what we're doing right now, by creating an atmosphere with all of our minds that allow us to share our feelings through something. Now, this something is created by how consistently we're sharing our feelings into certain structures. Again, communication. This is the constant alchemy. So just letting you know, like, I can't not think like this. So this series, Internet Investigations, is for me. All right, this is for me to make more sense of my past lives, so I can make more sense of where I'm going, how this realm has received me so far, how I can connect and communicate with the people who are in resonance to be spiritual enough to be aware of these ideas, and me being back and all these, everything, whatever, like this is everything for me, like this is literally me learning about myself on a cosmic scale. Like after my whole life of being detached from my soul, right? Because this is what we're talking about here. When we're experiencing life as a body here in this realm, it's only possible because our soul is beating our heart. But that doesn't mean that you're remembering your past lives, right? Like the whole point of you being alive here is that your ego, your fire, is separating from your water. All right. So you as an ego body, you as the spirit experiencing yourself through light, you know that you have to feel something for life to matter. But that doesn't mean that you know that you've lived over and over and that you're consistently creating yourself over and over and over again. So like that's my awareness. I can't not operate from that. It doesn't make sense for me not to. So literally I built Mercury, all right, metaphysically, and now I'm building the symmetry physically to bring Mercury to Earth, to bring my heaven to Earth, because my version of heaven is helping the universe. All right, that's why my soul is Virgo. That's why Mercury is Virgo, because I built that and made that sign. Like that's like my stamp of how my spirit moves through emotion. And then the way that my spirit communicates emotion is Gemini. And then the way that my spirit stabilizes emotion is Taurus. And then that's the point of sun, moon, and ascendant. So Mercury is my spirit soul. And then the fact that it exists is the Taurus, right? So Mercury itself is Gemini air. But then when you touch down on the ground is Virgo mutable earth, because everything's shifting and it's constant change, constant mutation of literally just shifting to mold to the environment, right? Because it's literally that's all communication is, like language, right? Like all language, like we're constantly mutating language. We're constantly making up new words. We're constantly shifting what one word means into something else. So it's like there's earth, we can stand on it, but it's never actually flat. Like it's never actually stable. So that's the point of being able to fly anyway. And that's why you want to be able to fly and know that you're God in your Merkaba. Then that's me as Metatron sharing with you about how you as a spirit, as a space, create this Merkaba that allows your awareness to anchor inside of something stable. And then that's what the Jews call a mind, literally. And then from there, you can anchor in your brain, right? Your pineal gland. And now you're doing what I'm doing. So now I'm experiencing life from mainly my head awareness because my Merkaba is attached here. And then my Merkaba being attached here to this body is now sending the neural signals, right? That's all associated with Hermes. Here's me communicating it. Not a synchronicity, but it is a synchronicity because everything's a synchronicity, but it's not a synchronicity because it's really a coincidence because also everything's coinciding inside of you. So it is a synchronicity and it is a coincidence because the whole point is, listen to my podcast about that. I'm getting like airy right now. That's hilarious. So the whole point, there are multiple points, but the point of me touching down to where people are right now, like the Merkaba is how I can travel to a different simulation. So that's death. Like when you die, your Merkaba, your mind will separate from your body. And right now you can die by technically going through some psychedelic experience or by fasting long enough to induce high amounts of DMT and create a psychedelic experience anyway. So it's a psychedelic experience. That's why I'm psychedelic symmetry, baby. All right. It's literally all about the balance and being connected to your soul. So your soul is psychedelic. Your soul is your spirit connecting with yourself, with itself inside of its own space. And that looks like infinite ways. So this is why, like, when you get really into psychedelics, every trip is different. Every acid trip is different. Every shrooms trip is different. Any psychedelic trip, like if you get into any of those things, you're going to see that they're different every time because you can't connect with yourself the same way every time. Now, we want to, that's the point of Earth, right? So we eat the same foods, right? We have favorite foods. That's us wanting to connect with ourselves, right? In the same way every time because we know what we like. We know what we want. We know what fulfills our space, all that good stuff. But obviously, you can't eat the same food the same way at the same time, right? The moment you did something, you did it. And that's a timestamp. And now time's moving on. So this is like, we're always expanding. Like we're always growing past what we just did. You feel me? Like it's always about connecting with yourself and then knowing that once you did that way, you can never do it the same way again because that's a memory. So your soul is your memory. All right. So all this like European psychology, like modern world, new world order psychology and science in general is super messed up and lost because they don't understand all this hermetic, basic, indigenous spirituality I'm talking to you about right now. That your soul is your vibration. Your heart is beating because your soul feels like connecting with things outside of itself. And then that's why your tissues and organs are all animated by your mind, which your tissues and organs can only matter because your soul is beating blood that is allowing them to be nourished. So obviously you got your soul is your connection, then your mind is your communication, your body is your structure, your ego is your imagination, right? So your life is you're expressing your ego all day, every day. You're using your ability to have a soul to connect your mind, your communication into this structure, into this body to express your God, to express your creator, to express your ego, to express your imagination, to express your awareness of nothing and something, right? Because you as a spirit, your space cannot be touched or experienced by any other space outside of your own. So only you as a spirit can express what you see because that's your individual perspective out of all these infinite individuals in the universe. That's what being indigenous really is, an infinite individual. So, welcome to Always Ascending Academy. If you didn't already want to be in here, if you're already in here, again, I mean, welcome. I love you. If you're not in Always Ascending Academy, welcome to Always Ascending Academy. This is what we're on. All right. Like, see, you can watch that whole thing over again. I just like made that like really simple, but it's reps. All right. We don't stop. We're always ascending. Okay. So this is where psychology is lost. The fact that this science doesn't acknowledge the soul means that they're literally lost in earth, and they don't understand how particles have to vibrate into reality to become material in the first place. So they're like just super lost, super duper lost. And that's what is causing climate change. All right. That's what's causing all this destruction of the environment in general. And that's what's causing so many problems in the world. So this is why we're looking at Carl Jung Depth Psychology. All right. This website, Carl Jung Depth Psychology site.blog, has an article, hashtag serpent, hashtag soul, hashtag spirit, hashtag Hermes Trismegistus Visions, Carl Jung Fun. All right. So let's check this out. So I had to say all that so I could make it completely relatable to you how I view life. Okay? Because it doesn't make sense for me to be down here and not express my imagination and not express my individuality. And this is my individuality, this series. So this is me in heaven right now. So literally I'm talking to myself. But then anyone who resonates with me talking to myself will naturally get connected to this structure. They'll naturally get connected to the symmetry. And then we'll create a circumstance where we can talk face to face. And boom, welcome to life. Nature is perfect or whatever. I mean, the spirituality is perfect. The technology is garbage. The technology is garbage. But the spirituality is nice. The spirituality is super nice. The ability to create your own simulation so that you naturally connect with spirits who are actually going to be in resonance with you and beneficial to you is awesome. Now, of course, indigenous peoples created their own simulation here in the Americas, and then they got raped, murdered, destroyed, and completely taken over and decimated by the Judeo-Christian desires of Europeans. But that is the chaos of the universe. That is the chaos of the universe. You're in control of yourself as an individual. So you as an individual, this is why it's important to be the synchronicity. That's why I, as Hermes, am the synchronicity. That's why I'm communicating here as symmetry. The whole point of symmetry is that I'm the synchronicity, you're the synchronicity. Nothing is a coincidence. Your spirit is a coincidence. Everything's happening inside of space. Thus, everything is intentional, right? So we intend to be aware of something. So now everything that we're aware of is where life comes in. And now that's chaos, right? But the fact that we intend to be aware is where everything is intentional. So you can check out the podcast for that. The Greek god Hermes and the thrice greatest Hermes are not identical. All right. So already starting off on a completely wrong note, as we know, but hey, that's the point of the internet and communication. Anyone can say anything and build a structure out of it. And then that's where we can just see the tiers of people communicating. Do you communicate to build structures? Or that should be higher. Do you communicate to build? Do you communicate to build structures? Do it low. Do you communicate to build structures off the screen? Do you communicate to build structures? Or do you communicate to destroy structures, right? So people who are in like low vibrational modes of communication, those are like gossipers. They communicate to destroy structures, right? Those are people who talk negatively. Those are people who spread like just toxicity in general, say negative things, want to make other people think badly about others, all that stuff. That's like, those are people who want to destroy structures. So that's low vibrational. Then you have the people who communicate high vibrationally to where they build structures. For example, creating an internet video or writing an internet article or building a website or making a magazine, right? So like building all these structures, that is high vibrational because that literally creates the space physically. Literally, it creates the physical space for other spirits to connect with the ideas that you're connecting on. So right now, if I'm connecting on these ideas internally, there's a huge difference between me just reading this website quietly to myself and communicating with you about it and building a structure where I can communicate with you about all these websites on the internet related to Mercury and the messengers of Mercury and symmetry and the synchronicity and communication and the Merkaba and the caduceus and tripling your C to become thrice great. You feel me? Because you being thrice great literally is just everything that I've said. You knowing that your imagination is what makes your spirit matter. So when you can believe in your own imagination, that's where, boom, welcome to spirituality. You know, like all this spirituality on the internet and everything it's just so colonialist and white supremacist. And that's why I have my Emerald Tablet series, because all the Emerald Tablets that they've released in my name are released with the twisted lies of, oh, you need to connect with something outside of yourself. You have to go join with the source outside of yourself. Just the fact that you're aware means that you are whole. You are a whole spirit. Now, if you don't feel whole, then that's where you don't feel fulfilled. So you have a whole spirit or a holy spirit, right? A whole spirit is fulfilled. A holy spirit is unfulfilled. A holy spirit will create a religion telling you to worship it because it doesn't feel good enough with its own emotions. And then it'll create a bunch of logic as to why you need to worship it because it can't sit with its own emotions. That ultimate toxic relationships in the world, right? That, again, I'm communicating about it because this is America and European, Russian America, because it's all the point of the New World Order, making you believe in this one imagination instead of yourself. So now, instead of coming into this realm and getting to express yourself and naturally be who you are, you're forced to serve the people who are using insanely violent, brutal rape and genocide to cause climate change and take over the homes of Black people and indigenous peoples and Asian people and just everyone, really everyone. Because people who hate other people to that extent also hate themselves. So anything that they do to others, they'll also do to themselves. And then that's where we can see like world wars or the medieval ages, right? Like people just doing these things to themselves, but then they rationalize how they're better than people who have a darker skin tone because they have the technology to go out of their way to hurt others and poison the environment. Fire. Gross. So let's see what's up. All right, because they're already starting off on the wrong note. Greek god Hermes and the thrice greatest Hermes are not identical. It's the same exact space. It's all an expression of Mercury. So, but let's see what they said, right? Because the point is individuality, right? So Carl Jung, or whoever's writing this article specifically, author, Mr. Purrington, Mr. Puddington. Very nice. I like Mr. Purrington. I like that's kind of a smooth name. I can get behind that name. So Mr. Puddington, Mr. Puddington, Mr. Puddington, Mr. Puddington, Mr. Purrington. I don't like saying it like that. Mr. Puddington. I'm getting some kind of accent that I'm just making up. And honestly, hella people could just project onto me what kind of accent that sounds like. That's not an accent. Like that is a vocal inflection. Mr. Buddington. That's me, Mr. Buddington. Buddington. It is Purrington, like purring. That's very Purrington. That Buddington. That sits back more and it sounds more comfortable and it feels better. Whatever accent that sounds like to you, it doesn't matter to me in terms of this world. I'm going off of vibration. Buddington versus Purrington. Like Purrington is like really upfront. Like that's like where I'm. But if I was speaking like this, like man, there's different ways, bro. See, vibration, all your soul. This is literally me as an individual spirit using the way that I'm connecting with myself, aka my soul, to vibrate my vocal cords in different ways so that I can express myself in different ways. Of course. Like, you know, like that's all it is. That's all the body is. Here we are. It's pretty cool. So the Greek god Hermes was really a messenger of the gods. as well as a sort of patron saint of anything that had to do with money matters, exchange, sending and receiving goods, and so on. So all this social media stuff is hermetic. Everything that Europe has that has to do with commerce and exchange is something that they learned from Hermes, something that they stole from a messenger of Mercury, a few messengers of Mercury, but mainly recognizing Hermes because they love Hermes, whatever. That's my name, whatever. We're speaking English. But the point is, communication is commerce. So as the god of Chi or the god of the sea, I'm the god of communication. So I'm communicating with you about how you communicate your body into existence. And your body is your idea of what you want to be. But that you, the observer, are not anything. So then that's where it's important to know how you create your body, which is then where we get into all the alchemy stuff, all right? And all the details that just become infinitely detailed, all right? The hows of life are infinitely detailed. But we do know the whats, numbers and elements and light. And that's all us observing our emotions of feeling like connecting with spaces outside of ourselves. All right, cool. So, but he was originally a sort of influx divinius, a messenger who came down from Olympus to carry out the decisions of the gods, or to communicate the divine word to mortals, like I just spent this whole video doing. And in that form, he's been identified with the Egyptian god Thoth, Tehuti, who was a god of writing, of wisdom, and intelligence. Mercury, again, all Mercury, all communication, all the sea, all the three coming out of the two. All right, so Mercury, that Mer is the water, that Curry is then becoming the air. My planet is an air planet that recognizes that we are all feeling like expressing ourselves. So it's Mercury. We all carry our emotions from the internal to the external. And then that's where you get like Aquarius energy, as far as like being the water bearer, being fixed there. The mind. So your mind is bearing your water. Literally, like your mind is big Aquarius energy because your mind as a water bearer is bearing your soul. So if your soul is too heavy for your mind, you get depressed, right? Again, here we have like, this is how spirituality is actually psychology. Psychology is lost with using the caduceus to cause way more health problems that they're actually creating with more of their logic and poisons in the world anyway. So the whole point is knowing that your mind, your Aquarius, is you bearing your soul. And then you get stronger by lifting your soul, lifting your heavy emotions. And then your mind gets stronger. You as a spirit get stronger by putting yourself in circumstances where you're forced to lift heavier emotions, heavier weight, right? Just like a gym. And then the more you're lifting these weights, the bigger your muscles get, the bigger you become as a space, the stronger you are, the more you can move, the more freedom you have in your body. You can express more of your imagination. It's all health. See, and it all macro, micro connects in that way. So he's also been identified with Mercury, the Roman god, who has much the same character. Again, we already know. Spirit built Mercury so that every body I send out from my space to connect with a simulation makes sense. So no matter where I send a body into, it's going to make sense because of me building my own simulation to connect with the universe. So the only reason I'm in this simulation is because I was called away. That's why I'm Chase Callaway, Chase Callaway, Chase Clarence Callaway, Triple C. I was called away from Mercury to be in this simulation at this time to communicate in this way so we can build these kind of structures, right? And now that's always transforming, and then that overall expresses us creating life, and now we can form consciousness out of that. We can further connect out of that, realize who we are, and then that's going to be us truly creating heaven together. Pretty cool. All right, a number of these gods were more or less equivalent. The old Gallic and Celtic gods were identified with the Roman gods. For instance, we find Celtic forms of Jupiter, Mercury, and others in Gallia Transpalina. Then Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice greatest Hermes, is a designation for a legendary figure, a man, not a god. And then that's where, yeah, they all like English language. That's why I made this whole first distinction. English language is so lost in like the man versus God thing. Like in English, their idea is that a god is someone who's created everyone outside of themselves. So the moment you see me, if I say I'm a god, you're supposed to feel like I'm responsible for you, which is impossible. Like we can see in like the Bible only exists as a story because God cannot control people outside of himself, or else Eve would have never eaten the fruit. So for people to like somehow think that everyone is an expression of one God and we all need to go back to God and be happy in heaven together, it's so lost. Oh no, I don't want to start like going in on anyone right now. Like, it's obvious. Whatever you believe, it's not personal to you, right? That's the whole point. I'm building this structure from me organically expressing myself as Hermes Trismegistus. So just know that this is my perspective as someone who's literally been the inspiration for most religions in the universe. Like Mercury is the simulation that gets called away to set up systems of astrology. And all systems of religion rely on systems of astrology to make sense out of how they connect on a consistent basis. So like I'm like no matter what religion you believe in, I'm the god in terms of I'm the messenger god of that religion. Chances are. And then this is where like my spirit is like really big because my spirit has been doing this a long time. Like my spirit has already made this simulation of Mercury. I'm calling it symmetry. All right, just so we can have all new words, right? All new titles, all right? All new creativity. But the whole point is that all this newness is built on the old. So, but Mercury, my simulation, where I am completely making sense out of how I connect with the universe, and that relies on Hermeticism. So then that's where my name is Tehuti Hermes Trismegistus, and I create Hermeticism to represent how I use my ability to have sex with myself to bring my snakes inward to create my own tea repeatedly, my own tree that allows me to create wings to fly into the universe and show you who you are. You are an individual, indigenous imagination experiencing itself through a thing that only you can fully observe and be aware of, because you are the sole creator of that thing. If you're aware of whatever you're going through, you're the one creating that ability to be aware. All right. Yeah. You're not necessarily creating the environment you're in, but you are creating your ability to connect to that environment, which means that you are then by extension working with the environment to create your body, right? This is why your body is like half your creation, half not. You know, like it's literally like half an environment outside of you, half an environment inside of you. And then your body's about like getting this compromise, and then boom, we got communication, right? So that's where our body is a representation of our minds. And no matter what religion you're in, you can get that mainly. Like people get that when they look at someone's body, they're like, oh, wow, I get a gauge of their mind. I get a gauge of how they communicate based on how this structure looks, right? So when they're saying like he's a man, not a god, God has to create men to connect with other gods. And then men have to imagine God to express their individuality. So like I have to imagine this creation of symmetry to express my individuality as a spirit here. I can't express myself really as Hermes or Thoth or Odin or Quetzalcoatl or Idris or Zoroaster or like any of these past messengers, because they all have too much weight. See, like all these old messengers of Mercury, they have too much subconscious weight. So they're too heavy, like they're not light enough. So my new creation of symmetry is light because it's literally anything I want it to be. It's my fire. But all of this fire is being created from the very same soul that created all these past fires. So it's being informed by all the same memories, all the same experiences. And then that's where I can be here giving all this Caducean clarity on what was actually going on in the world and all this stuff with words and everything. All right, history and religions. So this is the point of me being here. This is a particular kind of old Greek literature which is said to have originated in the priestly wisdom of Egypt. Examples of it are still in existence. So the relation between that Hermes, called the thrice greatest Hermes, and the Greek god Hermes is very remote. They are not identical. Okay. Yeah, that's cute. Whatever. So that was a short one, but obviously this video wasn't short because I had to go in, and that's again the point. All right, I'm building structures with my ability to communicate. See, the way I view life hermetically, alchemically. So every video is like a brick that I'm putting down to create a body or a wall. But let me say every video is like a cell that I'm putting down to create a body, right? So like every cell in my body is like a video, okay? And it's all coming together to create this walking real life social media account of who I am. So all my social media accounts are supposed to represent inside the internet how my mind communicates into a body. Just like this body represents inside of this earthly atmosphere how my mind communicates into a body. So it's like us doing the same thing, macro, micro. And then that's where I'm building a bigger video here, right? I'm building a bigger cell. I'm building a bigger body. The more I'm using my soul to feel like waiting and connecting with this object. So now the more I feel like connecting with you through this object, now I'm creating more ideas and expressing more and communicating more, and the video becomes bigger and bigger. And then you're technically becoming smarter and more wise because you're waiting in my soul and you are chilling at the vibration that I am communicating at. And then that's where we all raise each other's vibrations or lower each other's vibrations, right? Depending on how we're feeling. So depending on how I'm feeling right now, like that's influencing how you're feeling and whatever. And then that's where, boom, vibrations, right? So all of this, like, I wouldn't be able to communicate how I feel if I wasn't communicating an idea. So this is why we need fire and water to make air exist. And air is what allows life to be sustained. So this is why life can be so complex, because 1 + 2 = 3 equaling chi is technically a lot. Like once you get into that, like there's technically infinite ways that can play out, because there's infinite twos, like there's infinite emotions, and then there's infinite ones. There's infinite ideas, right? Like think about how many ideas that you can have that would all be an expression of your individuality. And then think how many emotions you can have that are all an expression of your individuality. And then think about how you can't express an idea without an emotion, and you can't express an emotion without an idea. And the ultimate emotion that allows you to express, the ultimate idea that allows you to express your emotion is your body, right? Like I don't need to use a word to express my emotion, but I do have to use a light. So that's the idea, all right? So the eye has to see a light. And then that's where the eye can now feel like connecting with this light. And then that's where the light also has to feel like being expressed. And then we have masculine and feminine basically. You know, like that's why men are the light and women are the eye. How have I never put that together? That's why girls love drawing eyes. And then in general, I mean, the point is like girls are moons. So the moon is the eye. And yeah, I mean, Tehuti's god of the moon. So he's god of eyes because it's just about being god of the soul, knowing that you are using your soul to not only look inward, but outward. So all of our souls are our eyes. Absolutely. That's our moon. And then, of course, our eye can only observe what? Light. So that light is the God. So then our eye is Lucifer, the water, that makes our fire, that makes our God, our idea real. And then all of that comes together to make a mind, right? So now an atmosphere is it's like infinite eyes. Like you can observe anything from any point because it's a sphere of just like infinite possibilities based on your individual feelings and vibrations and how you can observe that. and then that trickles into like particles, and then that's where it's like bodies, and then you create tubes to start making bodies, because tubes are what we make when we are about to be something, right? A tube to be something allows us to channel the chi to create this circuit of energy so that we can have these bodies, right? So that's why all your blood vessels, everything is tubes, because you need tubes to be anything, or else you're nothing, because you can't channel your chi into something that's sustainable. So man, that was some spiritual medicine for you. Hermetic alchemy, and we can see why the medical industry used the caduceus to create more health problems instead of sharing what I'm sharing here. So you can learn way more at chaseyourgenes.com. All right. Again, if you're not in Always Ascending Academy, hop into our online courses. We get so much deeper with all this. Okay. I can only go so deep on the surface, out in the light. That's the whole point of the internet. This is light. This is surface info. And if you actually want deep info, yeah, get connected. That's water. That's the soul. Otherwise, you're ego watching, right? You want to watch as an ego, but you don't really want too much to come of it. Or you at least want to consume the information without having to feel like you're connecting with it. And now I never know who you are, right? So, hey, everyone's doing what they got to do. I'm connecting with myself doing this. So I was called here by the simulation. I'm just glad to be breathing. And I'm genuinely grateful to be able to express my individuality. So much love. See you later. Peace.